The next week or so went by without any incident. For the time being, I stayed away from hero work until I could get the required equipment, according to Ned. After going over all the available information, my abilities, and everything in question, it was decided that the best method would be a set of armor that I could easily put together on the spot. Something made entirely out of liquid metal. Sturdy enough to give me heavy protection, but light enough that I could still move easily in it. For the time being, we kept the complexity of the suit down, as it was required that I construct it from memory every time that I use it. And the more complicated something is, the harder it is to remember, obviously. But with my upgraded memory capacity, one of the perks of having a symbiote is that they clean the cobwebs out of your brain, and a lot of things become much more clear than they were without it. You're able to remember information much better, as a key factor that we were using to our advantage. Starting off with a basic suit. Specifically, we decided to go with something closely resembling an old-styled English armor, but with some more modern touches to it. With a little bit of tampering, I even found out that I could alter the color state and pattern of the liquid metal that I produced, even to the point that I could make it clear, basically see-through, like glass almost, which meant that I could cover my eyes, but still be able to see, which was a very good thing. I didn't need to be catching bullets in the eye, and that was a weak spot. The multiple states that the liquid steel could take definitely came in an advantage when coming up with the blueprint for the design for the armor. The old English-style armor always had to include padding because of the general weight of the armor. But liquid steel was actually surprisingly light for its size, so not much was needed with that regard. Rather than including cloth fabric for padding, I could simply create the gel substance in order to pad the armor, which I also installed throughout most of the armor, which would greatly help reduce impact forces. Meaning, even if I got hit hard, there was a cushy gel side to the armor that would dampen the impact, so to speak, without being flammable or more vulnerable to other types of damage, because of course it's made out of the liquid steel. It actually took me almost the entire week to have enough liquid steel to actually produce the armor in a thin layer. Honestly, it was supposed to be more thick, but I just have to add to it as I go. Other than that, I had to spend a lot of time breaking the armor down back into liquid state and then reassembling it into the full armor set, again and again. Basically, training myself to do it on reflex. I needed to make putting on the armor as quick as humanly possible, or human symbiote hybrid possible. I had managed to get the process down to around 35 seconds, which was fairly impressive considering my starting time was nearly a minute and a half, and I had even started getting more used to stowing away the liquid metal inside of me, which in the beginning was extremely uncomfortable, but now had started to become a bit more normal feeling. Not quite so harsh. As a matter of course, throughout the week, I also had to make some public appearances. Of course, still feigning injury. Going to the big soiree with the mayor, where he publicly gave me a check for $100,000. Oh, that felt good. And the key to the city wasn't bad either. But the public speaking definitely wasn't my favorite part. The mayor seemed like a nice enough guy, but Honestly, I think it was more or less that he wanted to secure votes for the upcoming election, and commending a public hero figure just looked good. And while $100,000 is a lot of money to me, to New Star City it was basically nothing. But you're not going to find me complaining about it. That gave me some much needed financial assistance, as my bank account was basically empty. In fact, for the last 2 days, I've been having to borrow money from Ned and Vicky in order to feed myself. I also went on Good Morning New Star City, a morning talk show, which was fairly entertaining. However, once again, when it came to the public speaking, I wasn't that good at it, fumbling more than a few times. I wasn't exactly a trained public speaker, and it showed. And they all just wanted the same basic information. How did it feel when I went to save those kids? Am I sad about the loss of my arms? What was going through my mind at the time of the incident? Just fairly repeating the same question, over and over again. And my answer was always the same, that I really didn't think about it that much, which is the honest truth. I didn't really put any thought into it. I saw that the kids were in trouble and rushed in. I never even gave it a second thought. I wasn't worried about being a hero or getting attention. I don't know what was going through my mind at all, other than they needed help. So I gave it to them. Of course, I had to layer in some slight little details that made it seem like I was actually recovering more than the doctors expected. Basically laying the groundwork to claim a full recovery, a miracle of healing, just in a much longer time frame than it actually occurred in. Even if I was gonna claim a miracle, it couldn't be a superhuman miracle. The talk shows actually paid off fairly well, altogether collecting about 20 grand for 2 show appearances. I'm not gonna lie that I have never had this much money in my bank account. And I do mean ever. After receiving the funds, the first thing I started doing was looking into what I wanted to spend it on. Of course, there were the things that I needed for my superhero work. That had to come first. For example, I had to get a large amount of training weights. Really heavy training weights, as I couldn't simply wait around to collect enough liquid steel to try to weight train with that. It was important that I start beefing up. There was no telling when things were going to get serious. Ned also suggested that I pick up some books on basic engineering, how to construct simple tools and mechanical systems, levers, fulcrums, pulleys, and an assortment of other things, and start looking into them, saying that being able to know how to build simple machines on the fly would definitely come to my advantage when it came to lots of different situations. But finally, towards the end of the week, me, Ned, and Vicky were at my house, finally catching some relaxation. Ned, on the other hand, was still busy brain-working the whole superhero angle. His dedication to it was maddening. Every moment he didn't spend at work, he spent on this. So much so that he had stopped all of his research into other superhero phenomenon. Currently, we were all sitting watching TV. Vicky was eating herself some potato chips and having a beer. As usual, wearing clothes that, made me wish she didn't play for the other team. I know Vicky likes women, but I swear she dresses for men. And I know she could read my thoughts before this, at least now. So there's no way she doesn't know the thoughts that those outfits bring into my head.